The rain tapped lightly against the window, a steady rhythm that had become the soundtrack of my evenings. 10 years. A decade since I'd thrown her out. A decade since I'd last seen her face. I sat in my armchair, the glow of the TV casting flickering shadows across the walls. The house was quiet. Too quiet, sometimes. But I'd gotten used to it, built a new life, moved on. Then came the knock. Not the quick, confident rap of a neighbor or a deliveryman. No, this was hesitant, heavy, like the person on the other side wasn't sure they wanted to be heard at all. I frowned, setting my drink down. No one visited me unannounced, not anymore. When I opened the door, the air left my lungs. Her. Time had etched lines around her eyes, streaked her dark hair with silver. But those eyes, those were the same, wide, guilty, desperate. And beside her, clutching her hand, was a boy. 9, maybe 10 years old. Small for his age, with a mop of unruly hair, and a gaze that locked onto mine with unsettling curiosity. My pulse roared in my ears. "Lena," I said, her name like a blade in my throat. She swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the boy's. "Daniel," she whispered, I didn't know where else to go." The words hung between us, thick with unspoken history. Then softer, almost breaking, "This is your son." The world tilted. The boy, my son, stared up at me, and for one terrifying second I saw it, the curve of his brow, the way his nose wrinkled just slightly when he frowned, just like mine. Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? The past surged up like a flood, the shouting, the betrayal, the night I'd found her in his arms, the promises I'd made to myself, and now this, a child. Mine? The rain fell harder, the wind howling through the open door as I stood there, frozen. One question burned hotter than all the rest. Was she telling the truth this time? The knock still echoed in my bones as I stared at them. Lena, 10 years older but achingly familiar, and the boy clinging to her hand like she was the only solid thing in the world. Rainwater dripped from their coats onto my welcome mat, forming dark puddles that seeped into the grooves of the wood. I didn't move. Couldn't. My fingers dug into the doorframe, nails biting into the paint. "You expect me to believe that?" The words tasted like rust in my mouth. Lena's throat worked as she swallowed. Her fingers tightened around the boy's, Noah's, small hand. "I wouldn't lie about this," she said, but her voice wavered on the last word. A bark of laughter escaped me, sharp and humorless. Wouldn't lie? She'd spun lies so easily before, weaving them between kisses, whispering them against my skin even as she... Noah shifted, his two big sneakers squeaking against the floor. His wide eyes, were they my eyes, flickered between us, sensing the storm in the air. "Mom?" he whispered, pressing closer to her side. Something in my chest cracked open. I stepped back, holding the door wider. They moved past me in a rush of damp fabric and nervous energy. The scent of rain and something faintly floral, Lena's perfume, maybe, filled the foyer. I shut the door harder than necessary, the click of the latch too loud in the sudden silence. Lena's gaze swept the living room, taking in the worn leather couch, the bookshelf still crammed with my old paperbacks, the empty space where our wedding photo used to hang. "You haven't changed much," she murmured, running a hand over the back of the armchair. "Neither have you." The thought slipped in unbidden, treacherous. The way her dark hair curled at the ends when damp, the faint freckles across her nose that she always hated, details I'd tried so hard to forget. I crossed my arms, my biceps tense. "Start talking." She exhaled, her breath shuddering. "His name is Noah. He's 9. 9. The number punched through me. If he was mine, that meant she was already... My stomach lurched. "Did you know?" My voice dropped to a growl. "Back then, when I threw you out, did you know you were pregnant?" Her silence stretched, thick and guilty. Noah fidgeted, his small fingers twisting the hem of his shirt, a nervous habit I recognized instantly because I'd done the same thing as a kid. My mother used to swat my hands away, scolding me for ruining my clothes. Lena finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I was scared. You were so angry that night. I thought, you thought what? The words erupted from me, raw and ragged. That I wouldn't want my own child? Tears welled in her eyes, but didn't fall. I thought you'd never believe he was yours. The truth of it was a knife to the ribs, because she was right. Even now, doubt coiled in my gut, poisonous and familiar. Noah tilted his head up, his brow furrowed in a way that mirrored my own expression. Are you really my dad? The question hung between us, sharp enough to draw blood. I opened my mouth, closed it. The terrible truth was, I didn't know, and that uncertainty, that not knowing, was worse than any lie she could have told. The coffee in my mug had gone cold, but I clutched it anyway, the ceramic biting into my palms. Across the kitchen table, Noah swung his legs, his heels thumping rhythmically against the chair legs. Each impact sent a jolt through me. Lena sat stiffly beside him, her fingers tracing the edge of the placemat, the same one she'd bought at a flea market years ago. Some part of me wanted to snatch it away. You look tired, she said quietly. I nearly laughed. Tired didn't begin to cover it. Where have you been all these years? Her gaze flicked to Noah, then back to me. Around vague, infuriating, classic Lena. Noah reached for the plate of cookies I'd set out, store-bought, stale, but hesitated, glancing at me for permission. That small gesture, that hesitation, twisted something inside me. Take one, I muttered. He grabbed two. A ghost of a smile tugged at my lips before I could stop it. Lena exhaled. We've been staying with my sister in Colorado, but her voice hitched. She passed last month. Cancer. I stiffened. Marion. I'd liked Marion. Noah's chewing slowed, his small shoulders hunched. Lena continued, her voice steadier now. I didn't plan to come here, but then Noah started asking about you, and I thought, maybe it was time. Time. As if a decade could be undone with a knock on a door. Noah wiped crumbs from his mouth. Mom says you build houses. I blinked. I'm a contractor, yeah? Cool. His eyes, were they hazel like mine or just brown, lit up. Can I see your tools? Lena tensed. Not now, sweetheart. But I was already pushing back my chair. Come on. My garage was a mess of sawdust and half-finished projects. Noah darted inside like it was a treasure cave, running his fingers over the table saw, the stacked lumber, the row of hammers hanging on the pegboard. Whoa, he breathed, reaching for my nail gun. I caught his wrist. That'll take your finger off. He grinned, unafraid. Show me how it works? For a split second, I saw myself at his age. Curious, hands always reaching for things I shouldn't touch. Behind us, Lena hovered in the doorway, her arms crossed tight over her chest, watching, waiting. Noah picked up a scrap of wood, turning it over in his hands. Can we build something together? The question hung between us, heavier than he knew. I looked at Lena. Her face was unreadable. Maybe, I said finally. Noah beamed, and just like that, the walls I'd spent a decade building didn't feel quite as solid anymore. Noah's excitement about the tools gave me an idea, one I wasn't proud of, but couldn't shake. Here, I said, pulling a tape measure from my belt. You know how to use one of these? He shook his head, eyes wide. I demonstrated, pressing the metal tab against the edge of a 2x4. See? It's exactly 92 5/8 inches. Noah grabbed it eagerly. His small fingers fumbled with the lock mechanism, but he got it. Now what? Measure the workbench. I watched closely as he stretched the tape across the width. Lena stepped forward. Daniel, just showing him some basics, I said lightly, cutting her off. Noah's tongue poked out in concentration as he read the numbers. It's 48 inches? Exactly. I nodded, then pointed to the far wall. Now try measuring something taller. This was the moment. The tape measure slipped from his grasp, the metal retracting with a sharp zing that made him jump. But before it could snap back completely, Noah instinctively reached out with his left hand and caught it, just like I always did. My breath caught. I was right-handed for everything else, but always caught falling objects with my left. A stupid, meaningless quirk. Until now. Lena's sharp inhale told me she'd noticed, too. Our eyes met over Noah's head, and in that moment, we both knew what I'd been doing. "You're testing him," she whispered. I didn't deny it. Noah, oblivious, was now examining my circular saw with alarming interest. "Can we cut something?" "Not today." I took the tool from him, my mind racing. Left-handed catch. The way his nose scrunched when he concentrated. Even the cowlick at the back of his head, just like mine at that age. Lena pulled me aside while Noah investigated a box of nails. "You want proof," she said flatly. "I deserve that much." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "Marion made me get this before she passed." The document was crisp, official. A paternity test from a Colorado lab. My eyes skipped to the bottom. Probability of paternity, 99%. The garage swayed around me. All this time. All these years. Noah called from across the room, holding up a bent nail. "Look, I fixed it." Lena's fingers brushed my arm. "He's yours, Daniel, in every way that matters." The paper crumpled in my grip. Because now came the real question. Was I his? The lab report burned in my back pocket as I watched Noah devour his third slice of pizza. He ate like I used to at that age, one bite after another with military precision, sauce smeared across his chin. "You gonna finish that crust?" he asked around a mouthful, eyeing my plate. I pushed it toward him. "Knock yourself out." Lena sat between us like a ghost at the table, picking at her food. The fluorescent light of the diner made her look washed out, older than her years. She kept glancing at me when she thought I wasn't looking, waiting for my reaction to the test results. Noah wiped his hands on his jeans, another familiar gesture that made my chest tighten. "Can we go to your job site tomorrow?" "School day?" Lena said automatically. His face fell. "But Mom, I could take him after," I heard myself say. The word surprised me as much as them. Lena's fork clinked against her plate. "You'd want to?" Noah's knee bounced under the table, rattling the silverware. "Please, I'll do all my homework first." I studied his face, the way his eyebrows lifted in hopeful arches, the faint scar through his left eyebrow. I'd gotten mine falling off a bike at 7. The lab results confirmed it, but standing here in this cheap diner, I realized part of me had known since the moment I saw him on my doorstep. The waitress refilled my coffee. "Your kid's got your smile," she remarked. Noah beamed, bits of cheese stuck in his teeth. Lena looked away. Later, as we walked to the car through the parking lot's flickering lights, Noah ran ahead, jumping over cracks in the pavement. "You should have told me," I said quietly. Lena wrapped her arms around herself. "I was scared you'd take him from me." The admission hung between us, 10 years of fear, of running, all because of one terrible night. Noah called from up ahead, pointing at a neon sign. "Can we get ice cream?" Lena opened her mouth to refuse, but I was already reaching for my wallet. "One scoop," I said, "and no telling your mom if I get 2. Noah's answering grin was brighter than the buzzing sign above us. As we crossed the street together, 3 people who were somehow a family, I realized the lab results didn't change the most important truth. He was mine, and I was his. The guest room smelled of mothballs and unused space. I tossed fresh sheets onto the bed while Noah hovered in the doorway, clutching his dinosaur backpack like a life preserver. "Bathroom's down the hall," I said, too loud. "Extra toothbrush under the sink." He nodded but didn't move. His gaze darted to the framed photo on the dresser, me at his age, grinning on a fishing dock. "You fish?" I asked. "Mom says worms are gross." A laugh burst out of me. "She said the same thing on our first date?" Noah's eyes widened. "You took Mom fishing on a date?" Worst mistake of my life. Lena's voice came from the hallway. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed but smiling. "He spent 20 minutes untangling my line, then dropped the pole in the lake." Noah giggled, the sound loosening something in my chest. When Lena left to shower, he finally stepped inside, running small fingers over the model airplanes on the shelf. "Did you make these?" "Yeah, years ago." The balsa wood felt fragile under his curious touch. Can we build one together? The question caught me off guard. I'd bought those kits after the divorce, then never opened them. Maybe this weekend. Noah's smile could have powered the city. He scrambled into bed without being asked, still wearing his socks. I hesitated, then tugged the comforter up to his chin, something I'd never done for anyone. Dad? The word hit me like a live wire. Yeah? Can you leave the hall light on? I swallowed hard. Sure, kid. Downstairs, Lena stood at the kitchen sink, staring at nothing. The faucet dripped like a metronome. He's never slept away from me before, she whispered. The unspoken truth hung between us. This was the first night of the rest of our lives. Somewhere overhead, floorboards creaked as Noah turned in his new bed. I flipped the hall light switch. It stayed on. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as I burned the first batch of pancakes. The smoke detector remained blessedly silent. I'd removed the batteries years ago. Footsteps pattered down the stairs. Noah appeared, hair sticking up in wild tufts, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He froze when he saw the charred mess on the stove. Mom makes them golden, he announced. Yeah? I scraped the blackened disc into the trash. Well, your mom's not here. The words came out harsher than I meant. Noah's face fell. I cursed under my breath, reaching for the egg carton. Want to help? He perked up immediately, dragging a chair to the counter. His small hands fumbled with the eggshells, yolks dripping between his fingers. Like this? He demonstrated a disastrous cracking technique. I swallowed a laugh. Close enough. We settled into a rhythm, him whisking batter with more enthusiasm than skill, me manning the stove. The next batch came out edible, if lopsided. Noah drowned his stack in syrup, taking a bite before suddenly gasping. We forgot to make Mom's. The back door creaked open. Lena stood there, grocery bags in hand, morning light catching the silver in her hair. She took in the flour-dusted kitchen, our matching syrup-smeared plates. I see you survived, she said dryly. Noah brandished his fork. Dad makes crunchy pancakes. The word Dad hung in the air. Lena's gaze met mine over his head, a silent question. I flipped another pancake onto the growing stack. Sit down, I told her. They're better warm. Something unclenched in Lena's shoulders as she slid into her old seat at the table. The morning sun stretched our shadows across the floor, 3 shapes merging into one. Noah chattered between bites, syrup glistening on his chin. I reached over without thinking, wiping it away with my thumb, just like my father used to do. Lena's hand found mine under the table, squeezed once. Let go. The coffee pot gurgled. Outside a cardinal sang, and just like that, we were a family having breakfast.